All right, my friends, welcome back to the podcast. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is another episode with Jim Beebe, my therapist. He was on the previous episode as well. And I told the story in the first episode, but when Jim and I started talking and hit record, all of a sudden Jim became the host of the podcast, which was super fun. And so he had asked me to kind of share a little bit more about the Feel Better Journey, that coaching program that we've put together and that we're actually in the middle of right now. I think we're in week 5 right now with our groups and we're loving it. And if you're interested in joining the wait list, please check it out. There's a link to it in the show notes, or you can go to danisumner.com/the Feel Better Journey. But Jim and I just talked about the Feel Better Journey and how it came about, but also talked about what we're trying to do or what I'm trying to do through this program, right? And to bring community and to bring inner healing. And it's definitely biblically based and a Christian-run program, but it also has a ton of great information and great helps with how to heal from trauma and how to heal from different dramas in life. We talk about just family history stuff and how these things affect us. And, you know, the overarching theme and hope for the Feel Better Journey is for all of us to find more peace and more joy and deep, rich spiritual healing, right? Like I'd done these retreats for years and years, for about a decade working with people. And one of the themes that kept coming up for me was how to help people have lasting change in their lives. Retreats are amazing. I love them. I still attend them and I still speak at them. And I think they are very powerful things. But one of the hopes with the Feel Better Journey and why we do it for weeks at a time is to get long-term change, right? I don't just want that mountaintop high. I want to learn how to implement these changes and feel better from the inside out day to day, right? So anyways, it's super fun talking to Jim about the Feel Better Journey. I'm super grateful for his insight and his wisdom and his counsel, even as I've put this content together. So I'm excited. I hope you enjoy this conversation that Jim and I had about the Feel Better Journey. And you get to learn a little bit more about me and my process. So I hope you're blessed. I'm so grateful you're here and you're part of our podcast community. If you need prayer, please reach out. hello@danisumner.com. You guys know I say it all the time, but this is a listener-driven podcast. And so without you, there would be no podcast. So I'm so grateful you're here. And I'm so grateful for the community that we're building. All right, you guys, enjoy my conversation with Jim.
I was in a really bad place emotionally and just struggling with depression. And I had connected with Jim a bunch through that season. And I remember one of my friends was checking in with me and I was telling her about different revelations I had had. And she's like, you get these revelations when you work out. Why don't you just work out more? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I haven't worked out in 6 months. She's like, well, you're always going to the gym. And I'm like, no, Jim's my therapist. And I just laughed because, I like it. I know, it's hilarious. So thanks, Jim. You're my gym membership.
Keep taking your walks too.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I know.
Welcome to a Holy Mess podcast. All right, my friends, we all know life can be so difficult and painful at times, especially when we're carrying grief or loss or wrestling with shame about our past, anxiety about our future, or frankly, like we are just not enough. But there has to be so much more for us. There is hope and joy, peace, love, fun, purpose, and a reason that you, my friend, are on this planet. Let's partner with God so you can be who He created you to be as you wrestle through and trudge through your mess. Hi, I'm Dani, a recovering alcoholic, a mom, a wife, a mentor, and dust. We are only here for a moment. Let's live like it. I'm just like you. I'm a holy mess most days. Actually, every day. Let's have some fun and laugh while trudging through our mess. This stuff doesn't need to be dry and boring. Let's dig in.
So when you said I have some questions for you, I have to tell you my initial response was, oh my gosh, I'm in the principal's office and my palms are sweating.
Yeah.
I have to lie to this guy.
Yeah. Nope. Okay. Welcome everybody.
Yay. Jim's back, you guys. Oh my gosh. I love it. Jim, thanks for being here. You're so awesome. Our community loves you. And I announced to our Feel Better Journey people that you're coming, in 2 weeks. And everybody was like, I can't wait to see Jim. So it was super.
That's fun. That's fun. I always sound better than I really am. So, always remember, don't give any one person like anybody has all the answer. Nobody does. But Dani, I was wanting today, I know that you've been working so hard on trying to to create a program that people could take that sort of systematizes it and creates a structure to take everything you've worked so hard to get and trying to now package these tools so that you can give them to them. And I know that you can't get it all done in just a short period, but that you've created this feeling better journey.
Yes.
That is a way of you helping people walk through this, right? So I'd like today to just take a time to introduce and to whoever doesn't know about it in your podcast world to know what this is. Because when you do the next cycle, I think it'd be something really valuable. And I know I'm already starting to tell a few people that I know about checking this out, because it's another form of really getting, honestly, what it's taken a lot of work and a lot of time to metabolize it and to share it in a way that people can get it, practice it, see other people be doing the work, because you actually do that within the group, some of the work. So could you introduce us first off, just, why you're doing this and what it is, and then maybe together we can sort of help people understand what the expectation is of doing this program if they decide to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Best. Thanks, Jim. Well, first of all, like the Feel Better journey, here's the thing, you guys. So there's so much information. We have more information now than we've ever had, right? Like you can read every book, you can go to every podcast, you can listen to every sermon, and it's like, okay, but why are we still struggling? What's the disconnect? How do we take this from like head knowledge to like heart knowledge? And I think for me, the biggest piece that has brought more peace, more joy, more purpose in my life is practicing the principles, right? So we don't just talk about the stuff, we don't just learn it, but we're actually like there practicing it, we're applying it to life, we're unpacking it, we're trying to process through these things, because I think that's how we actually change and transform. And so the Feel Better journey came about, and Jim knows the story, you guys, but I led retreats for years and years and always did these like spiritual encounter retreats, these little 4-day kind of retreats for people. And through working with people through those, the same things kept coming up over and over again of like people's issues, right? Like fundamentally, we all have the same core issues or hurdles. The stories may be different, but I'm telling you, the feelings we feel, the shame we feel, the regret, the guilt, like all of that fundamentally to humanity, especially in Christian culture, I think are all pretty universal. And so through the years of doing those retreats, and then honestly, Jim, like, gosh, you bring the depth and the wisdom to the program because of all the experience you have and everything you've taught me, and just like the tools and the kind of ironing it out and putting it in a way where people can understand it, grasp it, and then God willing, like practice it and change. And so, but that's why I needed hands-on. I needed more than just like, oh, you're beloved and God loves you. I needed more than that. Like, okay, but how? And how do I clean this crap out that's going on? And why do I hate myself? And why do I feel this low self-esteem? And why am I struggling with regret and shame? And how do I deal with all of these things? And then how do I build a life to thrive? And how do I do this? And so that's really the 12 weeks in the Feel Better journey really is just like, we talk about this thing, uncovery, right? Like we're discovering what's actually holding us back. Because cognitively and consciously, I can tell you, my kids frustrate me, my husband frustrates me, my history frustrates me, like all these burdens on life that are stressful. But really, there's an underlying thing going on that we have to get to, or those issues are always going to be there. But what we do is we kind of unpack the underlying beliefs and lies that we believe, so to speak, and we just kind of unpack them, and we unpack our stuff, and then we just kind of find new glasses or new perspective and healthier ways to metabolize them and to learn to thrive even with those issues, right? Like you guys, I'm always going to have anxiety and this like bent towards depression, and it's like learning to thrive even with. That's the holy grail for me. It's like, it's not like, okay, how do I get rid of this? Everybody wants to get rid of everything. It's like, yeah, I think the thing I've learned is, but if I don't get rid of it, how do I learn to thrive even with it? And so, I'm learning that. And so I think that's the heart behind the program. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
That helps. So it sounds like, in the podcast, you do talk about a lot of these things, but it sounds like the program is structured. It's a structural way of actually interacting with and practicing and then sharing those with a small group.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So it's small groups. It's never more than 8 people, 6 to 8 people in a small group, just for the safety. We joke like what happens there stays there. What's done in Vegas stays in Vegas, so to speak. Because if people speak openly, they need a safe place to share. But I think, so there's audios that get released every week. And honestly,
share with us what would people get with this program?
So they get every week, there's audios, anywhere from 3 to 7 audios. They're not long, and it's never more than an hour worth of content. And it's basically, we take them on this journey. It's really Dani Unplugged. I share my journey and how I found more inner healing. I'm very vulnerable. I mean, oh my gosh, it's like I share it all. It's like I'm very open. I feel like Revelation, that scripture, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, that's how people are healed, right? That openness is what opens others up just to see a different perspective and finding grace and
your own wounds, huh?
Yeah, because so many people are so hard on themselves. And so part of this is just, we listen to the audios. There's a workbook people can do, but really when we're in session, we unpack it and we talk about it and we share
And you'd meet weekly with a group of 6 to 8 people, let's say.
Yeah, we have men's groups and women's groups. They're not commingled, but they're men's groups and women's groups. And then people share kind of their process and what maybe came up, or we practice the tools. In the last 30 minutes really is just practicing the tools and trying to figure out how to apply them, right? Like some of this stuff is new, right? Like we do meditation stuff. Like this week we're working on emotions, right? And we're talking about, like, let's be real, men get to share 2 emotions in society, right? There's maybe 3. Men, I think, get to, struggle with sexual emotions. They get to struggle with anger, and they get to struggle with non-emotional. Like that's, I think, being non-emotional is an emotion.
Numbness.
Yeah, just numb. I'm just numb. I'm fine. I'm numb.
Yeah.
Right. But all the while they're carrying the weight of the world, and they are not spiritual robots, right? They have other feelings and emotions. And so being able to, and permission to feel their feelings and to process them and then to not be controlled by them. Like it's a huge, huge thing. And so, and the same lines, women, right? So sometimes women's, feels judged or whatever, like, oh, I'm just too much because I'm too emotional. It's like, well, no, how do you be true to thy own self? How do you let these emotions, be teachers, even indicators of what's deeper going on? And so we're just trying to get to the root of what's going on. And then the whole premise of this thing is, how do we find spiritual healing, right? We talk about being
tools in a way.
Yeah.
Right? They're almost sounds like each week you're going through maybe a different topic with tools, some audios that are relating to that, and then ways to practice working in that area, which I'm sure, it's not enough time, but it's a way to sort of introduce it, get people to start practicing, and then to experience it within the group, right? To see them, you interact with 1 or 2 people, it sounds like, to maybe help practice through that's an issue, let's say feelings or the thought, certain thoughts that are there, or dealing with our family of origin issues. So they're pretty intense. I'm guessing that in your time together in the group, you never have enough time.
We always go the whole 90 minutes, right? Like I always say, hey, they're going to be 60 to 90 minutes. We always go straight to 90 minutes. Like people don't want to leave. Like once we're in it, it's beautiful to see someone's experience and the revelation. And, it's a group coaching program, right? But watching people get coached or even share their experience. Like I always tell people, I get so much out of these groups. Like I am not coming as the guru, like I know it all. I'm just coming to hold space with compassion, love, and a non-judgmental lens, right? To let people share their experience, their feelings, all of that stuff, and then be able to process it in a healthy way. Because judgment closes people down, where compassion opens people up. And, you can see it on people when they're able to breathe and not have such harsh judgments towards themselves. I feel like that's a big theme, is just learning to not be so judgmental towards ourselves. Like we can fake it that we don't judge others pretty well, but we don't fake not judging ourselves pretty well at all. And especially in Christian culture, we're very hard on ourselves. The expectation, the bar's been raised so high, and it's like, oh my gosh, how did we get here? And so I think it's really learning. I think fundamentally it's how do you actually embrace this grace that's an amazing and huge and vast, and not just talk about grace, but actually live it. And if we actually live by grace, how would our life look differently? Right. And, so
Dani, when I hear you describe it, to me, it feels like it's an intersection between the 12-step world, which is just sort of ongoing support group. And they do step studies, right? So generally it takes about a year to go through the step study.
Yeah.
That world, the church world, where you'll have a lot of Bible studies, or you'll have Rooted is a church-based support group that's sort of a little more theological in a way. but dealing with some of the deeper, some issues,
Yeah.
and there are some Christian support systems like Celebrate Recovery. So it's like it's taking that bridge and then it's taking everything you've learned and trying to package this. Whatever number of weeks they're in your program is not going to solve everything, but it's trying to bridge that and give them some really concrete things that they then can probably for the next life, for the rest of their life, they can then try to practice and revisit, right? So you're getting,
100%.
in a tense period, you're giving them a lot of material that they will not be able to get through all of it. I'm guessing it's like drinking off the fire hose for a lot of people.
I think it is. And I do think it is, but I do see such breakthrough in people too, because some of this stuff, there's a disconnect, right? So some of this stuff is just healing our spiritual wounds that have been placed upon us, right? Where, maybe we feel shame because of our struggles. And so we feel like, gosh, I can't even be open about this at church, which is sad because that's like the place we should be able to be. And there's a lot of great churches out there, but there's a lot of places too in Christian culture that, there's harmful theology, there's harmful doctrine. And I am pro-church, I'm pro-Christianity. That's why I'm doing this work, right? To bring this healing. And so, but just giving people the space to process their stuff. And I'm not a therapist. This is not a therapy support group by any means. We touch on, all the stuff in life, but it's from like a spiritual lens. How do I get so that I have peace with God and peace with myself? This is what it's all about. And so empower people to step into who they truly are. And some people, Jim, they could be super successful. You know this better than I do. Super successful people that have no clue who they are. They've been just on the hamster wheel their whole life. They're exhausted. They're trying to do the good work, but they feel empty inside and, all of this stuff. And so this is where it's like, no, how do we live from a place of peace, joy, love, grace, purpose, even though some of the crap in our life is still there? Like that is, for me, it's like, this is not about like, okay, we're going to pray over you and you're going to be delivered from all your fears. Maybe when we start unpacking some of this stuff, like there's been some crazy stuff where people are like, gosh, it's not even an issue anymore, but more times than not. And for me, it's been like, okay, even though I struggle, I feel okay. I feel peace with God and peace with myself. And so fundamentally, like it's called the Feel Better Journey, but also we're learning to feel our feelings better. We're learning to just feel things and get through things and thrive, right? No more surviving. Like I'm just so sick of just surviving. Like, even grief, permission to grieve and permission to have joy. Like how do you hold both the suffering and the joy together?
Okay. Great, Annie. So who is the group for? Who would you say would qualify or be a good candidate for this group?
So a couple of things. I would say who it's not for first. So if you are like super duper struggling and barely functioning in life and like really depressed, or you're really just in a rut and you're barely functioning, I don't think that this is a fit. I think that we need to get you some more help, maybe get
more intensive help,
like therapy, or maybe get some blood work done, like figure out what's going on. But if you're like relatively functioning, but just freaking like being fed up and like ready to quote unquote do the work and look at yourself and be reflective and, not just live under the victimhood of life. Yes, you've been victimized, but like you're ready to deal with stuff and you're willing to put in the work. And I don't mean like exhaustive work. I just mean self-reflection can feel a little bit intimidating, And so being willing to like just be done settling for life, ready to like move into a chapter of thriving and like willing to look at yourself though, right? Because there's a lot of people that, especially in Christian culture, it's like, well, they just lay down and like, oh, well, this is all I get. This is it. Or I'm forsaken by God and I don't have permission to have that because of what I've done or who I am or whatever. And so I think it's just, you give yourself permission to find some more, go after it.
So openness, probably, I'm guessing you really like it if they have some support system.
Oh, 100%. That's one of the things.
So they could have a counselor or a good mentor or another 12-step program they're part of, but making sure they have some other places as they share this journey, because if it does rock them a little bit or open up doors, you want them to have other places to go to.
100%.
And I'm guessing at the end of these weeks, then that you also sort of direct them to go back to those places.
For sure.
Make this a supplement to what they're already doing. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
A very intense supplement. And I'm guessing that there'll be people that are going to want to redo it. because it can't just do it all in one. It's just, you got to redo practicing stuff over and over again, right? But you need people that the willingness to openness. Secondly, it does sound like, even though you said audios are only about an hour, my guess is people have to be willing to come in and do the work. I know that you have work pages, you have things that they process pages. They got to commit to show up and be there and be willing to be open, right?
For sure.
So there's a certain sense that's the kind of person that's going to really thrive in this.
Yeah. Somebody who also too will take ownership over the group, right? We're not just participants. We're not just showing up. We're in this community together. So like, this is not just Dani, the talking head. Like, we are doing this in community, right? So there's an opportunity to build deep, rich friendships and to support one another and to pray for one another and encourage one another. And so it's almost like, I don't know if you ever played sports or like going into battle, like we're going into this like season of like, this is brotherhood, this is sisterhood. We're in this together. I'm cheering for you. You're cheering for me, praying, and this safe place. Everybody's like-minded. I mean, the people that come into the group, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're just incredible humans that I love and adore and have so much respect for. And so, and we're trying to build this community of support and strength.
That's fantastic. Now, Dani, how do people sign up, and how often are the groups run? What would that look like?
So we're trying to figure that out. So we are going to run it 4 times a year. We just decided. Thankfully, Erica, who I love, has just come on board. So she's our organizer, because that is not my gifting, and I'm staying in my lane, as Jim has taught me. Stay in your lane, Dani. So we're going to run it 4 times a year. So the next one runs early fall, and it's going to take us through the fall, and people can go on the wait list. So there'll be a link to it in the show notes, or you can go to danisumner.com/the Feel Better Journey and get on the wait list. We're going to have obviously men's groups and women's groups. And depending on what we can manage, how many groups we'll have in the fall. But the groups are small, right? Because we want to give plenty of time for everybody to be able to share and process. And it's not a tell-all. Like, people don't come and have to share all their dirty, dark secrets, but they get to have space to be able to process and share. And people can choose to be a fly on the wall too, but thus far, nobody has chosen that. They've been very interactive and very in it. And yeah, it's been fun.
Okay. So the best thing would be to go on your website. We'll put that in there. I'm sure you have information about it, and then an interest list, or if the registration is open, they can sign up or go on an interest list for the next time it comes up. Exactly.
And then they jump on before we start, we jump on a 15-minute call with me, and we just make sure that it's a fit. We get to answer any questions people may have and all of that. So last time there were a couple people that we just kind of helped in a different direction, and then they're going to jump in the fall. So, we just want to make sure it's a fit for you and all of that. Right. So, yeah.
Okay. So Dani, this is wonderful. I think it's good because, like, you've done a lot of retreats, and they're wonderful and they're fun. Mm-hmm. But we all know it's sort of like a big splash, but then we get back into our life, and then 2 days later, pretty much it's all gone.
Yeah.
It's very hard to metabolize that information. So for you to expand it over many weeks is a way to try to practice it, even though we know it is still, against the weight or the history, the momentum of all that other stuff. It's still like going to take time, and people may want to do this 2 or 3 or 4 times. But we know that go and do it over a longer period gets them to maybe make it more part of their day-to-day life.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's really, and you're the bridge between these encounter weekends that people do. The 12-step are like Celebrate Recovery, which are weekly support groups, but you're that bridge into really very practical, applicable, and experienced these things, right? It's almost like going from a book and in between the book and therapy is this group, or in the power of the group to practice this stuff and share it together. Yeah. So I think it's wonderful. I want to encourage everybody listening today to go look it up, because there's not a lot like this out there. There's some stuff out there, but you can get all sorts of books and workbooks and stuff out there, but to really go do it, you almost need something like this, right? And even, I'm a therapist, so even therapy, yeah, we give homework and we give books and we, and then we come back and talk about it. There's a lot of accountability in therapy too, but there's something about the power of a group that is so good. And also they get to just experience you in this group. I think that's really powerful because they get to experience you helping them as you share your own journey. So I'm really glad you're doing it. And I really encourage everybody who listens just to go look it up, because if you're serious about, working on these issues, I know probably most of the people that are listening to you read all sorts of books or half of them been in therapy. This is just another really good tool and very practical tool. So, and I know the material pretty well at this point because I, sort of heard you going through it, building this program, but it's really good stuff. So that's great. Dani, thank you for sharing about it. I hope everybody listening to this will really consider it as part of their journey. I think it can be really significant, really helpful.
Hello, my friend. If this episode blessed you, made you laugh, or triggered you, hey, that's growth. Please do me a favor and share this with a friend. And if you feel led, please leave a written review for the show. That really helps us out. Don't forget you are in good company if you're feeling more broken than you'd like to admit. And you are more loved than you can ever imagine. Have a great week. See you next time.